I'm Chap Bettis, author of The Disciple Making Parent, and this is my audio blog where I read some of my blog posts in audio format for your convenience. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be looking at a blog post, Pastor All the Sheep, Encouragement for the Pastor's Family. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at a blog post, Pastor All the Sheep, Encouragement for the Pastor as he leads his family. Well, I recently was asked to give a very short talk to pastors about the pastor's family. I wrote about that subject several years ago on the Gospel Coalition website. You can find that with the blog posts, How Churches Can Care for Their Pastors' Children and How Pastors Can Care for Their Children. But I had a few more thoughts that I wanted to share with these guys, and the following are my rough notes from that time together. I was asked, having pastored for over 30 years and raised my children as a pastor, what advice would I give that perhaps was unique to a pastor? Here are 3 specific thoughts. 1, pastor all the sheep. When you study the life of Jesus, you see that there was a priority in discipleship. There was the crowds, the 70, the 12, the 3, and the 1, Peter. Jesus ministered to all of them, but he had priorities, and that's okay. Peter was a special but not exclusive focus. Peter, James, and John saw things the other 12 did not. Love manages multiple priorities at the same time, and love also prioritizes some relationships over others. Thus, make sure that you're shepherding and discipling your family as part of your inner core. The most foundational parenting verse is not Deuteronomy 6 or Ephesians 6, but Matthew 28. We're to make disciples of and shepherd and pastor everyone we can, and especially our spouse and children. That means that I seek to be intentional, that I have a plan, and I fit family discipleship into my schedule. Well, there are a number of sub-applications that fall out from this. One is this: I don't overwork. So I'm not, and you're not, just a Christian worker. You're also an example of living the Christian life. Now, my personal tendency is to overwork. So I tried to put intentional discipleship commitments in my daily, weekly, and yearly schedule. One way I tried to prioritize my kids was for me to go out once a week on a donut date. They kept track of whose turn it was. So the time is short before your kids are grown, so put those commitments in your schedule now. So one sub-application is I don't overwork, but another application is I don't underwork, or you shouldn't underwork. Some of you may have the opposite temptation. We live in a time when everyone is child-centered. I could do a million things for my children. Other parents are. But I wanted my children to know that I lived for something bigger than them. Because we're committed to the local church, our children will probably be able to do many, but not all, of the activities that everyone else is doing. And that's okay. Jesus Christ is the center of my universe. I live for him first, and then my family. And so should you as well. Don't be child-centered. So a sub-application might be that you should not underwork. So the first encouragement is to pastor all the sheep, including your wife and your children. Number 2, make sure the first place you live out the gospel is at home. Based on numerous studies, those who walk away from the faith say that hypocrisy in the home or church was a major factor. Make sure that your children see the same person at home that they see in public. Children are given to shine a floodlight on the ways we need to grow, and that means that we as parents are regularly repenting. That means being careful not to complain to our wives about the problems in the church. God has called you to shepherd people with problems. That's what you and I were called to. That's what we signed up for. So related to that, for me, I had to get a handle on getting upset in the home. Your little children are one day going to be adults and sitting in another pastor's office for premarital counseling. And that pastor's going to say, "Tell me about your family of origin." You want your children to say, as my pastor's son said to me, "He is the same person at home that he is in public." So get help for any sin habit that comes out in the home. So number 2, make sure the first place you live out the gospel is at home. And number 3, know that God has called you to manage, lead, and rule your household well so that you will learn to lead God's household well. 1 Timothy 3, 4, and 5 says that an elder, a pastor, he must manage his own household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? In this verse, God directly ties pastoral oversight with learning to lead your home. Leading people involves lots of relational wisdom. There are many young guys, and actually, unfortunately, old guys, who can exegete the word, but not exegete people. God gives us our home as a small trainer Piper Cub airplane to learn about ourselves and others. He wants us to learn to lead them and move them where God wants them to go. God intends the home to be one place that you learn and display relational shepherding wisdom. One practical parenting application of this is that I don't just leave these parenting principles to my wife. In this verse, God says that leading at home involves the same principles as leading at church. So learn to parent well. Number 3, God calls you to manage and lead and rule your household well so that you will learn to lead God's household well. A lot more could be said about not forcing the gospel on our children, protecting them from the crazies, or just having fun and enjoying them. But these are 3 thoughts. Parenting, like pastoring, is a long obedience in the same direction. Thank you for listening to the Disciple Making Parent audio blog. Did you know that we give away the audiobook of the Disciple Making Parent absolutely free? We are on a mission to equip parents to pass the gospel to their children. If you would like the free audiobook, simply visit thedisciplemakingparent.com/free audiobook. That's thedisciplemakingparent.com/free audiobook. Thanks for listening.